Happy Friday, everybody. It's Jim, it's Amedeus, and it's gonna be fun. We got some baseball talk and some other things going on. Amedeus, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you today, Jim?
I'm well. It's one of those Friday couldn't come fast enough weeks,
Yeah.
It was kind of like, okay, it's Friday, yay, we're gonna get the heck out of here. So anyway, any thoughts on yesterday? There wasn't much going on.
Oh, well, it was a huge Europa day yesterday with the 16 matches, and
I meant that. No, I'm just kidding.
I murdered my premium plays, went 5-2, so I'm in a good mood there. After let's see, I went last week in Champions League. I went 5-1, and then 1-5 in Europa League on the Thursday.
Yeah.
But this week still did good in Champions League. I think I went like 3-3, so it wasn't the greatest, but had a nice 5-2 between Europa and Conference League, so that was nice. And then Champions League, I'm on a 15-5 run right now, going back to the group stage. So we're on fire in these leagues, Jim.
The man is hot. And by the way, just so you know, okay, the link to your predictions is in the show box below. So always check out that, because we want to make sure that you get all of Amedeus's outstanding information. And it's linked in the show box below. So you want to go and get that knowledge, and more importantly, cash some checks. By all means, go get Amedeus' stuff. It's in the show box below. There's links to Sean's, writings, and to my scratches that go on out there for Forbes and Newsweek and other publications. Anyway,
love the shameless plugs. It's my favorite part.
There's nothing wrong with shameless plugs.
No.
If we don't do it, who's going to?
You know what? I see other people all the time now on YouTube. I never even knew that term before you said it to me, and then now I'm seeing it everywhere. People are like, "Oh, I have a book you can buy too. Got to get the shameless plug in."
Right. I started that a year and a half ago on a podcast I do called Stream On, and Stream On has to do obviously with streaming video, and we get actors, actresses, directors, producers, people who are from the different streaming services. And so, I'd be on with the PR people, and they said, don't forget to make sure that you plug this part in. And don't forget. And so I thought, well, wait, this is stupid. It's not for me to get the plug in. Okay. So, at the end of the show, after we, completed most of the interview, I'd say, okay, it's shameless plug time. I'm calling it that. I'm not saying it's not Amedeus. It's me saying it. Amedeus, give me your shameless plugs. And it got to be a joke, because they were waiting for the shameless plugs. So, and one time, one of the guys I was talking to was on a BBC show, right? But he had a new movie coming out at Apple TV Plus. So he goes, after you watch this, go over to Apple TV Plus, because he had a brand new movie. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm sure that the people from BBC are pissed, but so what? Anyway, but shameless plugs are important. If we don't do it, as I said before, who will?
Well, your term definitely caught fire, because I hear people saying it all the time now. Or maybe it was just something where it's like, I didn't realize it until you pointed it out, and then as soon as it gets pointed out, you hear it all the time, right? Stuff like that.
I can't take credit, although I would like to, for it. But it is weird. I mean, that's like saying shameless plugs has been around for a long time. Whether or not people use it, that's a whole different ballgame. Speaking of ball games, we said that we were going to talk a little bit of baseball. You want to do a little soccer first, or whatever you want? It's your choice.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, the soccer, there's not a ton today. There's only just a few games. There's the one Premier League game.
Anything interesting tomorrow?
Yeah, let's see. Let's check out what the Premier League's up to tomorrow. I know there's a few good games.
You know where Sean is.
Yeah. So I bet he was loving that game yesterday. That was wild. I had Man United and the over, just like Sean said. And when it was 1-0, I was like, okay, come on, Man United. I know you're a second half team.
Right.
And of course, Man United does what they do in the second half. They tie it like 5 minutes out of the break. Right. And then they're a last 20-minute team. We've seen this all the time, right? Like Sean talks about this.
They're in the NBA of Premier League soccer. It's like,
you know what? That's another one. I bet the 76ers because I had given them out at -3.5. I bet the 76ers when they were down by 17 at halftime at +360. And they came back and won by 5 points. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, that's probably the best way to bet the NBA at this point. You take the team that was favored at the beginning of the game. If they're losing by 20 at half, and if they're at home, just bet them to come back.
It's funny you bring up the 76ers, right? And the 76ers are one of those teams where you'll look as you get into the fourth quarter and you go, what? You're looking for Joel Embiid on the score sheet. You're like, what the hell? He's like got 9 points. What the? Then the last quarter, he doesn't miss. And you're like, what? Where was he for those other 3 quarters? What, man, when the money's on the table, that's when he plays. And I can't argue with that.
Yeah, it's the crunch time. That's the most important time. That's why we say you don't have to watch the fourth quarter. Really, the most important time in the NBA game is the last 8 minutes. That's the crunch time.
Look it on and watch.
And look at the 76ers. They were down by like 10 at that point, and they still came back.
Half. I mean, geez.
Yeah, and they cut it by half by like the fourth quarter, but then they were still down by like 8 or 9 going into the fourth. And sure enough, eight minutes to go. The comeback starts.
It's all said and done, boys. So yeah, you're talking about Saturday. There's some fun stuff.
Yeah, so there's a few interesting. We got Leicester Arsenal here. Leicester being at home. Leicester playing very well lately. I know they got blown out in their last game, but they were playing very well before that. And this Arsenal team, hasn't been the great now. They're -143 on the road here. But do you really want to lay that price with them on the road against Leicester? I think maybe the over is a good play in that one because Leicester is always good for some goals at home. And from what we saw in Arsenal's last match, they scored 3 in the second half when they were down 2-1 at halftime and then won 4-2. So that's just the kind of team they are. Another one that's interesting, the under in this West Ham Nottingham. West Ham's been terrible. I don't know what they're going to do. They're favored here at home. I don't even know if they win this game, though. They've been so bad, and I think they have some injuries now. But Nottingham, they're turning it around. They're not great, but they're playing better, and specifically on defense. So that's one where they could come in and try to just, grip a draw away from West Ham the entire match. So that'll be interesting. Then, Man City plays Bournemouth. Interesting. Man City is on the road here, but they're only a -350. And usually against a team like Bournemouth, they would probably be like -600 or something.
Right.
So I find that's an interesting line. I don't know
if William Hill knows something we don't.
Yeah, I don't know if they're resting. Well, they haven't been playing great lately, but, they blew that game against Leipzig in Champions League late. And this might be a spot where, against a bad team, they might just unleash on them. But it's a tough one. I mean, Man City -1.5 would be the way I would go in that one because Bournemouth has been terrible. They don't really score a lot of goals. And then the last one, the afternoon match, is Crystal Palace and Liverpool. And that one's really interesting just because Liverpool has been so bad. We just watched them get dismantled by Real Madrid 5-2.
Right.
And, now they're on the road. They don't have their Anfield advantage. So put this team on the road against the Crystal Palace side that's been actually really good on defense lately. And they play better at home. This could be one where maybe Crystal Palace double chance, maybe even the under. I don't know. Like Liverpool, they've been starting to score lately, but Crystal Palace has been good defensively at home, and I don't trust Liverpool. Like a few good games, I'm not going to get snowed by this team. I know they're not good.
Well, Crystal Palace at home, the crowd is really good. I mean, I've been there, and I can tell you that it's really a fun crowd. I mean, they get into it, and they can make hell. They can make it hell on the opposing team. So that might be, I know they're really at times you wonder about home field advantage, right? In any sport, but sometimes it really does make a difference. And for Crystal Palace, I think they have always been one of those teams where they win a whole lot more games at home than they do on the road. And that sounds stupid. Of course, you're going to win more games at home than you win on the road, but there's always a higher percentage, right? Of, maybe I'm winning 80% of my games at home and I can't win on the road at all, or maybe a little bit on the road. But traditionally, Crystal Palace at home has been, well above 50% of winning at home. So, for what that's worth, it's in the mix.
Yeah, soccer's a sport where I find home advantage is a big thing. Actually, I think NBA and college basketball home advantage is even bigger for some reason. The home teams always seem to win in these basketball games, but with the soccer aspect, I think it's different than North American sports, because with North American sports, every team is in a fixed city, and that's never going to change. So you you get your schedule, and you kind of know, and if you've been on the team for a few years now, you're used to the traveling aspect, and what it's like to go into Oklahoma City or anything like that. With soccer, it's different with the promotion and relegation. And I'll give you a good example with the Italian league.
Okay.
A majority of the Italian soccer teams are from Rome North.
Uh-huh.
So traveling, you have to travel. Like, for example, these places like Cagliari, they're not in Serie A anymore, but they were for a long time, a few years ago. Cagliari's on the island of Sardinia, and I don't think you can fly there. So teams have to fly. Yeah. So teams have to fly south of Italy, and they have to take a boat to get to this island. So that's tough traveling. Lecce is another great example. I always say never take a team when they're playing in Lecce, because Lecce is one of those teams where they haven't been in Serie A in a while, right? They're there this year. They weren't there last year, and I think they were there the year before. So they're one of those teams that goes up and down. But the years that they're in Serie A, it adds a whole new travel element, because they are in the, how Italy's shaped like a boot?
Right.
Lecce is in the tip of the heel of the boot. So if you're a team up in Milan, you have to fly all the way south to get to that city. And I don't even think you can fly directly there. Again, you have to fly more inland and then take a bus down to the coastline city, because it's always raining and things like that. So this is what I mean is like soccer. I think the mainly the travel aspect, because you're going to places that you're not so much used to, especially if it's a new team. Like Cremonese and Monza. Monza's never been in Serie A before. No team has ever had to travel into there in Serie A. Okay, and Cremonese, it's the first time in 22 years. So if you've been in Serie A the last decade, you've never had to travel to Cremonese.
You ain't seen it,
and you don't know the environment, right? It's not even if it's a close place to travel to, you don't know the environment, you don't know the stadium. Things are new to you. This is a team that you've probably never even heard of this team up until this year.
Well, you're the perfect person to ask about this. With so much going on, and I'm talking about, it's when the teams go to Milan, how do they focus? Because there's so much going on in that city that would attract me from a standpoint. I could see a team going in there and say, this is too much fun. I want to get out. I want to get involved in the nightlife. I really want, because that's Milan. Milan is the Vegas of Italy, right? You've got way too much going on over there. Not to mention lovely women and all kinds of fun stuff. How do you focus? Do you actually, do you come in 2 hours before the game? It's one of those. We don't want these guys staying too long here, and Monaco's the same thing. Because you'll see guys in Monaco, you'll see them going out the night before and going to the casinos and all that stuff at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I think with that, like any team, it's up to the coaching and the managers. They gotta keep the team in line. Yeah, you guys stay in the hotel. You don't do this, because you could make the same case for any North American team, right? Like when they go to play in Vegas. Right. How are you going to keep Harden out of the Vegas nightclub the night before, right? Like, it's not going to happen. He's going to be there. He's going to take his own private jet too. He's not even going to fly with the team. So this is what I mean, right? Like, it happens all the time. or New Orleans. NBA players love going to New Orleans because the clubs. So
that's a great place.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like I think you got to let them go because they got to have lives. But at the same time, you got to, as a coach or manager, you got to reel it in and you got to put your foot down and
you kind of began this talking about Oklahoma City. That's one place you do not have to worry about the guys having problems. Is Oklahoma City. Teams playing away don't see cities they play in. Fly out today before hotel, fly back, home games. Fox is a good point, but some of these teams do come in a day or so ahead of time, just to get acclimated, and so it's your point is good, but it doesn't always hold true in some of these things. But that was more of me having a little fun with Milan because it's a great place to go.
Foxy, you cashed your Jokic bet by 0.5 point.
Yeah, how about that?
The line was 23.5, and it was. I hope you got the 23.5. Scored 24 points.
Not bad. Hey, they don't have the old joke. They don't ask how. They just ask how many. Right?
They won the game too. I couldn't believe it. The Cavaliers were up late, and then before I even they're up by 3, and then I turn away and I look back and they're down by 5 with 2 minutes to go, and I was like, oh, there goes the Cavs.
What's happened here?
Yeah, how do you blow that at home? But whatever. The Nuggets are a good team.
It's a possibility. Yeah. So all right, cool. It also this also is the weekend, and I'm doing this because for my brother, who is overseeing all of the production for the MLS. I will not be calling him today because he will not be answering his phone. So it's it's one of those things. But the MLS begins, and I know that there's not a lot of juice for it, but where does it rank among the leagues? Does it rank even in the top 10, 5?
Well, I'll tell you this much. I'm on the soccer page.
I know you're a big fan, but I just pass that out.
I'm on the soccer page of Bet365 right now, and MLS isn't even in the upcoming. They play tomorrow. And it's not even in the upcoming leagues. They have the Power 5 in Europe, and then they even have the English Championship and the Scotland Premiership, and then they have the UEFA competitions, Champions League and Europa League. And if you want to find MLS, you literally have to go to the Americas tab and scroll down to you. So that just goes to show you how much the sports books are excited for the start of the MLS season.
Yeah,
they don't even know it's happening.
So basically, you're telling me that some of the leagues that are in my neighborhood get more promotion than the MLS.
Yeah, and I know we've touched on this so many times, but I'm looking at the schedule right now, and it's such an eyesore to look at. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games on Saturday, 1 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday.
Well, and there's only one of those games in the afternoon.
Yeah, there's the one 4:30 Nashville and New York City, and then we got 7. They're all, we got what is that? Set 8 at 7:30, 2 at 8:30, 1 at 9:30, 1 at 10:30. So even though they're spread out, a majority, more than half of the games start at 7:30. Exactly.
So what my brother was telling me is, there's every game starts 7:30 in their own time zone. Okay, so when it says 7:30, that means 7:30 local time. The theory of the case, and I'm not defending it, I'm simply stating it. The theory of the case is that you'll get an overlap. So you'll be able to watch a little bit of every game if that's something that interests you. Now, something that they haven't had, which might be nice, they're going to have a whip around, which is kind of like the red zone for that. So that's an upcoming thing. And this is going to sound crazy, but the MLS, in the United States has never had a pregame, postgame, halftime show.
Oh.
So Apple's in the studios in LA have set up for a pre-game, post-game halftime show. So each one of these games, just like the NFL, is going to get, they're going to fly, they'll be, all of the games are national. There's no more local television. Okay. Now you have the choice to, if you're Apple, you have the choice to listen to your home radio people. So if if you're in Toronto and you want to listen to your Toronto broadcasters, you can watch the game and listen to the, they'll sync it up.
Good old Kevin Kildan and Stephen Caldwell.
I don't know the broadcasters.
Those are I'm telling you, those are the broadcasters.
So anyway, and they've gone out of their way to try to keep some of the guys who are local guys who people love, and I say that because most of the, if you put a gun to the head of some of these people who are even soccer fans and say, well, who are the broadcasters who do your games, your team's game, and they couldn't mention them. But in places like Salt Lake City, in places like Columbus, Ohio, in places, where it actually is the sport because there's no other professional sport, there is, there's some strong following. And so they do have an allegiance with that. What I think that, I think it'll be interesting. I mean, I'll watch just to support my brother. And we'll see how it plays out. Do you think the MLS would work better without the playoffs? To me, season pointless to watch. It's an interesting point. I don't know. I suppose we in the United States, Foxy, are so used to a set scale of, you play a season, you play the playoffs, you play a championship. If you took that away and said, okay, at the end of the season, Team A who won the season is the champion, I don't know how that would play.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's an interesting topic just because, around here, it's like teams don't try during the regular season because of the playoffs. But the way I view Foxy's question there is really, do you think the MLS would be better if it followed suit with the rest of the world soccer leagues? And I think the answer to that question is yes, because like I said, if you added promotion and relegation, it would give, because that's the other issue here is with North American sports, a lot of the leagues have had to find a way around tanking. Like NHL does the draft lottery, and so does the NBA. I think it's only really the NFL that does, if you finish if you suck, you get the first pick. But like a lot of these, they've had to come up with a draft lottery to prevent teams from tanking. And I think you're getting that problem with the MLS because, teams can finish last place and they know, oh, that's fine, we're just going to get a better draft pick, when really they should be thinking, oh my God, we're going to go down to the USL, right? So it's, and as we've discussed before, it would also make the league better because you would have teams like these teams in the USL that are competing for something. They know they have a chance to move up to the majors. But
I love the idea of relegation in soccer in the United States because, to be honest, 5 or 6 of the MLS teams that have become successful were USL teams before. And the only thing they did was they built a bigger stadium, and I'm not talking about, a 75,000 seat stadium. I'm talking about a 20,000 seat stadium over a 9,000 seat stadium. So, and I know that there's a ton of owners in the USL who would love to be in the MLS, and not even for the money, because, ownership of of an MLS team, right? It doesn't even, Bryce Harper makes more than some of the franchises are worth, playing baseball. So I think that, you own a soccer team in the United States because you love soccer, because you're not owning it to make money, because that's not going to happen. Okay.
Yeah. You're doing it to grow the sport.
Yeah. To grow
in your local area or wherever. It's probably, most owners are probably more local, I would think.
The funny thing is that in Washington, the ownership group is, I think it's like 30% of it is local ownership, and the other ownership is two friends of the owners, the U.S. owners who own AC Milan.
Oh, there you go.
So AC Milan owns a piece of DC United.
There you go.
So as I said, it's not a matter of making money. It's a matter of either breaking even or not losing too much. But the relegation idea is because the MLS has expanded like they have done in the past way too fast. They just want numbers. They want cities and numbers, and it's just you don't get a product when you're just if you're just adding to add, and you don't have a product that's solid in the first place. You're going to end up with a talent pool that is so thin that well, let me put it this way. Okay, each team has maybe 20 players on a team, maybe 25. I'm talking about professional soccer team. How many?
23. I think it's 23.
All right, we'll just round it. We'll round it
somewhere, somewhere in the low 20s.
We'll round it to 25 just to make it easy math, right? Do you really think there's 1,500 soccer players in the United States and Canada? Well, you could get people from around the world, but 1,500 players as your base that you can put on those teams, paying what they pay to be competitive. I mean, you're going to get a top level, like you say. You're going to get that. So it forces you to spend if you're going to get relegated, right?
Yeah, definitely. And the problem is I don't think it'll ever happen just because the U.S. would have to change the entire infrastructure of their domestic leagues. That's the only problem is the way it's set up right now with the USL teams is like these guys, you need to give them the opportunity because obviously, in England, when a team gets promoted, that gives them an opportunity. Not only does it give the team an opportunity, but the players, they're getting paid more because they're in the Premier League now, right? It gives these other players in the smaller leagues, opportunity because if we play well enough, well, screw Charlotte if they're going to be bad, okay? They should go down and we get to go up and we should be getting paid more because we're the better team right now, right? So it helps. It's not only for the teams, it's for the players, it's for everybody. But again, you'd have to change the entire infrastructure, I feel, because right now the way it's set up with the draft system is it's too North Americanized. It needs to you need the smaller teams, the smaller divisions, Division B, Division C, the US. So they need to be able to buy and sell players the same way and not be constricted to these certain rules. Like also the MLS, I know they've changed it over the years now because you're starting to see a lot more international players come in, but they used to have a rule years ago. I think it was like 10 years ago where you were only allowed up to 3 international players on your team. You don't grow the game that way. Okay. How are you supposed to get big names here and, compete with other large leagues when you're putting restrictions on like that? I know you want to promote American players and Canadian players and grow the sport in the country. But at the same time, if you want it to compete with leagues around the world, you can't be putting restrictions like that where, you can only have three international players and then the rest have to be from this country, because then I think that's how we lead to the product that it is right now. And it all comes down to it. I'm not trying to say, North America, obviously we know Canada and the US are not as good at soccer on the men's side. Anyway, the women are great, but on the men's side, it's not as good. And I think, again, it comes down to the infrastructure because the women's infrastructure is great in the US and Canada because obviously they have Canada, I know is in the top 10 and the US has one of the best women's teams in the world. So this is what I mean.
They're looking for a three-peat this time in Australia.
Yeah. And that's the thing is the programs are there for the women, but they're not as popular, I guess, for the men. And I think that's where, if you really want to grow the game in North America, you need to focus on the programs and the infrastructure, not even the MLS. You need to build, you need to really tear it down and build it up from the bottom again.
Well, the other thing, Well, there's a couple things. One, Francisco Marcos, who at one point was the head of the USL, he was their commissioner. Frank had a great idea to what we were just talking about. He started off by saying, he goes to Garber and he says, Don, it doesn't hurt if we just play some friendlies against each other. Well, Garber goes, okay, that makes some sense. He says it gives your MLS teams a chance to play in some of the cities where they don't play. And so, what do we got to lose? Now, Frank's theory of the case, which, he pushed past Garber, was I got some teams that I'm going to set up to go and play and beat the crap out of the MLS teams. And so it got to a point where the friendlies, the USL teams were winning more of those games against the MLS games. So then Garber goes, nope, stop. We're not doing it. We're not going to play, any more USL games. And, it was because Frank had proven his case that, what, you're not that much better, boys. We can play you and go that route. But on part of the problem, and it's been a problem for years, is that because of football, because of baseball, because of basketball, you don't always get the best athletes to play soccer. That's not the case overseas. Okay, you go to England, they're going to play soccer. I mean, that's all they want to play. They don't want to play football in England. They don't want to play basketball. Some guys do want to play basketball, but for the most part, that's the game. Okay, here you've got athletes who probably could be very good soccer players are playing other sports, and you're not going to compete, because if I can make 3 times as much money playing baseball or basketball or football than I can make playing soccer, I'm not going to play soccer.
Yeah, and you make a great point with that, and I think again it comes down to the infrastructure, because like you said, a person in England is never going to grow up and say I want to play American football. I want to play our football, because the infrastructure is there. They know we have programs, we have teams. I can go play for a youth team, something, and I can work my way up the rankings.
It starts in elementary school.
If that English person wants to really play American football, they know, okay, well, I have to fly to America. I got to, change my whole life. I need to go move there now. And then I need to get into a college over there and play college football first. There's all this thing. So again, I think it works the reverse way. Americans and Canadians look at it like it's too much work to work your way up in the American and Canadian infrastructure and get to the MLS. It's more like if they want to make it as soccer players, I have to go overseas and play for a team in Italy, try and get into one of the youth teams in Spain or something. And if you don't believe me, just go look at the American team itself. Weston McKennie, Brendan Aronson, Gino Reyna, all these guys play for international teams, right? Dortmund,
all of them came through the soccer club areas. Okay, like where's the hotbeds for soccer? It's New Jersey, it's southeastern Pennsylvania, it's St. Louis, Missouri. That's where they have club teams, and they go and they play and they travel. I mean, there's some of these kids that will play on a club team that'll travel 4 hours on a Saturday to play a match against a team in another part of the state and then come back home. I mean, it's not easy. It's kind of like playing junior hockey in Canada, right? I mean, if you play junior hockey in Canada,
travel.
You really have to travel and you really have to want to play.
Just traveling across Ontario is a pain in itself, because it takes hours to drive just up north to Barrie or something. And I think that's another great point that leads into it. The US and Canada are such massive countries land-wise compared to like England, Italy, Spain. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you wanted to travel from like the most northern city in England or Italy or something and go to the most southern city, it's going to take a lot less time than traveling down south in the US, or even just across to the western coast.
Well, I've equated it like this. Okay. Say that you want to go, let's say we're in New York City, just for sake of argument. Say that you want to go from New York to DC, right? That's about a 300 and maybe 20-mile trip. Not a big trip, okay? You do that in Europe, you go through 3 countries.
Yeah.
So forget the language situation, from going that 300 miles, right? But at that same time, you've got passports, you've got all this other stuff you got to deal with, okay? Imagine if you had to, when you went through Jersey, you had a passport, and they do speak a different language in Jersey. I'm just kidding. And Maryland and Delaware.
It's that Italian American.
Right, exactly. It depends on what part of Philly. You get down toward Philly, that's where you get the Italian. So then you go through Maryland, right? And then you're into the district. So you've traveled through 4 states to get there. You travel through 4 countries to get to, in that same distance in some parts of the Europe, wherever you may be. So, we have a mentality in North America. There has to be some sort of winner, okay, at the end of the day. There cannot be a tie.
That's the other thing too, right?
Okay. We don't want to try to have to add math, okay? If, God forbid, if I own a professional sports team, the fact that I don't want to spend money on them, but I want to benefit from them, whether it's vanity because I want to own a professional sports team, or it's, purely greed, I want to make money off of that team. The fact that that team could be knocked down to a AAA status if it's baseball, or a lower level hockey league if it's hockey, or the G League if it's basketball, would freak these people out, because they are the one other element to it is cities build arenas and stadiums. All right. If the city built a stadium and spent $500 million, and the team that was in that stadium no longer played professional at the highest level, can you imagine what, you would never get a city to build a stadium. Well, it would never happen.
Well, that's the thing, though, is you can make the same case, over in England. What if Chelsea got relegated?
No, I understand, but what I'm saying is at least they understand that when I build that stadium, if Chelsea doesn't live up to their expectation, we know where to blame. The blame goes to Chelsea.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. If the city's gonna, cough out the money for that stadium, they need to make sure, are you a serious owner? Are we going to make sure this team is one of the top teams? Is this going to be like, a Man United type team in our league? Or is this going to be like,
that's
Leeds?
Good pressure, though. That's good pressure on ownership.
Yeah, but that's how you start building leagues. That's how you get the right people in places, because these guys are going to spend money, and they're going to ensure they do whatever they can to make the moves to keep their team playing at the highest level.
I would say, I know a lot of people in Pittsburgh, right? We'll use them as an example. If the Pirates would be moved down to AAA, and Columbus would move up to Major League, because the ownership in Pittsburgh doesn't really care about, spending money on players, right? I guarantee you that beautiful ballpark, PNC Park, which is gorgeous in Pittsburgh, they would not be happy in the city of Pittsburgh, okay? So the pressure on ownership to produce from the city, because what they could do is they could raise rent.
Okay. Well, Jim, let's be real. Let's be real. I don't think the city of Pittsburgh is very happy with that team in general. Right
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, but if the pressure was there of them being relegated, that would be,
Well, that's what they need, right?
Right. You have a successful football team. You have a successful hockey team. What the hell happened to the baseball team?
You got an owner that's pocketing half the TV revenue. So
and here's what is hilarious about this, right? They would not sell that team to Mark Cuban. And Mark Cuban is from Pittsburgh. And
he would do something.
Oh, believe me. Mark Cuban would have spent tons on that team.
The Mavericks are good.
Look, the thing is, when
traded for Kyrie, so I question Mark Cuban's, brain cells a little bit, but
right, fair enough. But Mark, here's the thing about Mark. Okay, Mark's passionate. Owners, and they, when he shows up at an owners meeting in a t-shirt, that's a little different than some of the other owners in the league. The fact that he paid Ross Perot double what Ross Perot wanted to buy the Mavericks because they didn't want him. The league ended up getting him regardless because Ross Perot goes, I am not turning down twice the amount of money. You'll deal with Mark.
You'll deal with him. I'm selling the team to this guy. You can't stop me.
Tell me no.
Are you okay? How about this? You pick the guy that you want to buy the team. All right.
Check.
Yeah. I'll take half from him, and you cover the other half.
Right. You can't tell me not to take it.
All right. You pay the difference, and we have a deal. Okay. Go find a guy and pay the difference.
Right. So Mark ends up with the team. And, David Stern ends up with this guy who shows up at league meetings in t-shirts. So the Major League Baseball didn't want to do anything to do with Mark. And you need owners like Mark. Stern had a great line one time when he said, if I need $250,000 for something, I call Mark and make him mad so he gets so we can fine him. Because we know he will say something or do something to go off. He's like an ATM for the National Basketball League, but he's mellowed out a bit.
Now they have the Miami Heat for that.
Yeah, Mickey Arnson's team, the new Everton Stadium, ready by 24 season. Very possible to be a championship club. That's probably true. But it's been fun talking about relegation, but that's just such a foreign, no pun intended, thought in this country, and in Canada as well, being relegated down to be penalized for just screwing around.
Yeah, I know. The thought that your team that you cheer for is not going to be in the highest league one day is just like, we can't comprehend it over here.
Well, okay, think about this for a second. What would happen? And God knows I know Hamilton has desperately wanted a hockey team, right? And at every point in time, Toronto has smashed any possibility that happened.
Yeah, Hamilton had one for I think like 2 years in like the 30s or something like that, or the 50s. Couldn't sustain.
The guy that owned the BlackBerry. What was I forget his name? It started with a B.
I don't know his
name.
What
I'm talking about. Anyway, he tried. How many times did he try to buy, an NHL team to put in Hamilton, and he was squashed at every turn. Okay, what would happen if Toronto would be relegated and Hamilton would be kicked up to the league? Can you imagine what that would be like?
Oh well, Leaf fans would not be happy. I think there might be a riot. They would have
torches and be headed toward headed toward downtown to the arena
they'd be headed straight for Gary Bettman because nobody likes him around here.
I get that, but it wasn't Gary Bettman's fault that they would be relegated.
Yeah, but they would look at it like, you allowed this to happen. You've been changing the sport for far too long.
Yeah,
no, but nobody likes him around here. He's bad.
I get it. There's very few commissioners that people like
that are likable.
Yeah, well, their job is to pay to take the crap from because the owners don't want to take responsibility.
Everybody hates Roger Goodell. Adam Silver's just like an alien.
Well, Roger Goodell gets paid $40 million, so I think he can weather that. Adam Silver,
yes, you can take the booze at the draft.
Yeah, you go ahead. Don't worry about it.
Just sit there and take it, Roger. This is the one time a year you have to work.
Right. The rest of the time, forget it.
Yeah, guys coming out during the playoffs like, oh, the reffing's never been better. Yeah. Well, I can see that for you. It's never been better because you got exactly the teams you want in there.
Yeah, didn't hurt you.
Yeah, they listened to the script, so
everybody paid attention.
I'm sure the reffing was great. Rehearsal went well.
Right. I have no idea who you're talking about. But there you go. Here's some topics. We promised people a little baseball, and that's what you're going to get, a little baseball here.
Yes, that's
baseball. Here are some of the top storylines. See if you agree and see if you think what you think, okay? The average time of the games, based on what they're doing with pitch clock and will estimated be cut by 20 minutes, which would then put a game at probably around 2 hours and 46 minutes, which would make it the quickest games since the mid-1980s.
See, last year I found myself on average taking 4 hours to watch 9 innings. So 2 hours and 40 minutes would be nice, but I don't even think the games are being 3 hours on average. I mean, I guess it depends on the game, really. The ones I was watching, I guess because the Blue Jays score 12 runs a game.
Right.
You give up 12 runs. So you end up getting innings that are half an hour long.
Right.
You just got the bases loaded. We need to change the pitcher 3 times. But yeah, so like I said, as somebody who watches a majority of Blue Jays games, I would say they're closer to 4 hours the games. But again, it depends. It really does depend on the offense and the pitching. Like a team with better pitching probably just rips through a team. Right. Because I have seen that before, where everyone's in the 3rd inning and this game's in the 5th or 6th, and you're like, the hell happened here? Oh, it's 0-0. That makes sense. It's just no one can hit today.
Well, one of the things that I've seen too is there was a game that I was watching a couple years ago. I didn't see one last year, but I did see one 2 years ago. I'll use Max on this one. Scherzer was pitching against Verlander, okay, in an interleague game. That game took 2.5 hours. Those two guys, you throw the ball back, you get the ball back, okay? You throw the ball to Jacob deGrom, and he is working the Pythagorean theory out. You're looking like, geez, come on, Jacob. It doesn't take you. We know what you're going to throw. Okay,
this is what I was saying with the mathematics.
Yeah, exactly.
He's thinking too. It does. It's not just the hitter; it's the
pitcher.
pitcher.
It's like, Jacob, you're going to throw the ball 97 miles an hour, and they're not going to hit it. Just throw the damn ball.
This guy likes the curve. He likes the fastball. So maybe if I throw him a curveball, but there's a chance he might hit that one. But so he hits this one 13% of the time. So maybe I'll go with that.
We only have 2 pitches. All right. So which one of the 2 are you going to throw him? So yeah, that's my big thing where they're shaking off. And I'm looking at the catcher. I'm like, he shook him off 3 times. He's got 2 pitches. What's number 3? What's option 3? I don't know. Okay, here's one where we might actually even be able to get a prop bet on.
The Carlos Perez signing saga.
Pitchers and hitters. Who complains first about the pitch clock?
Pitchers and hitters. Who complains first? I feel like the hitter complains first because we already know that the base stealers are complaining about the pitch clock.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's easy to say, oh, the pitchers aren't going to like it. But I saw something in college where they were testing it out, and the batter was asking for time, and the umpire was just ignoring him because, buddy, there's a pitch clock. You're not getting any time.
Yeah, stop it.
All right, get ready to hit the ball.
Yeah.
So maybe the players.
Hargrove would never have been able to play in this era. Stolen bases attempts will become the highest since 2012. Bigger bases, we talked about that. And
pizza box bases.
Pizza box bases.
Sponsored by Domino's.
Right, the bases of Domino's. And the fact that we have a pitch clock.
Yeah, I guess because at least the base runners will know, right? Because before they used to always just try to steal on a 3 on a full count because if the guy hits it, you have to run anyway, right? So right. I think it could work where if you got an eye on the clock and you see it's hitting 2, well, the guy has to throw the ball, so you might as well just start running at 2 seconds, right? So right. I could see how it. I know the base runners are complaining about it, but I could see how because it kind of forces their hand, and at the same time the pitcher knows well. If I don't throw the ball at this time, the guy's going to have to run. So it could also help with catching the base steroids. I don't know.
Trey Turner is probably going to have 30 stolen bases by the end of May. You know, it's this is definitely going to play well into the players.
Yeah, guys don't steal a lot anymore. You get
no, but those who do are, you know,
they get into the 30s. Yeah.
Then, you know, because catchers aren't that great at getting the ball down to second base anymore. Although second base being bigger now, maybe they can hit the ball.
But yeah, I found last year, like, it was majority of teams, like, everybody either had less than 10 steals, or a team had that one guy who was like over 20, and you could tell he was the guy who would try to steal every time it was on base.
Okay, here's a good one. We're gonna have at least 2 30-30 players this year. You might have 2 30-30 players on Toronto.
Yeah, I guess probably. We got a lot of big hitters up here.
You got a lot of bangers on that team.
Really built this team to hit.
Yeah,
like the pitching staff is not great. Like I said, you come into the game, knowing Barrios is on the mound, and you're thinking, I got to score 12 runs today just to have a chance.
Well, that's like the what was it, the 1979 Pirate team with Lee Stargell, they called the Lumber Company. It was Stargell, it was Dave Parker. I mean, you had guys on there that could just crush the ball.
Yeah.
And they didn't have any pitching, but they didn't care. You know,
yeah.
They score runs.
It's that Sean mentality, right? Just I don't care about defense as long as you outscore the other team.
Yeah, just keep going.
All right. It doesn't matter if you gave up 5 as long as you scored 6.
Okay. Corey Seager of Texas, Matt Olson of the Braves, Juan Soto of San Diego will be the hitters most positively affected by the ban on shifts, because they pulled it all so much.
I guess, but that's such a weird one. Like, you're picking 3 players out of so many that could benefit from the shift, right?
Right. I mean, yeah, they all 3 of them pulled the ball, but all 3 of them are all-stars. So
yeah,
you know, maybe they're not hitting as much to the other side, but by the same token, if you're hitting the ball out of the ballpark, or if you're just ripping it in, you know, in for singles, I don't see how that's necessarily a bad thing.
That's what I mean. Like, it's not going to matter at that point. And there's like, you could probably take another 3 completely different players and say the same thing, right? Because they'll probably have similar stats where there was a big drop in the years of the shifts, because that's all they're probably really looking at is like, oh, their numbers were way better before this came in.
Okay. Batters averages will rise from 243 in 2020, which, by the way, was in 2022, which was the worst since the mound was lowered at 69, to a 254, which is the best average since 2017.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that, just because I guess the shift did bother a lot of teams. Like the Guardians learned how to hit around it, just to win their division, just have a chance.
They did a really nice job.
So I mean, I guess I could see that, because for some of these teams that weren't hitting as well, or these players that weren't hitting as well on these teams, it's probably just going to be like, okay, back to the golden days.
Okay, we actually talked about this a second ago. Joe Minerdi of the Marlins and Trey Turner of the Phillies become the first players in 6 years to steal 50 bases. I mean, that's a lot. Forget
combined
that.
Or each? 50
each. They'll both be. They're in the same division. I don't know how that's okay.
You know, 50 is a lot. 50
it
is a lot. Like, if it was 30, I would say yeah, but 50, just because, you know, the pitching clock, I guess it could affect it, right? Like, if it's forcing these guys to run, if they're going to take advantage of it like that, like where I start running with 2 seconds on the clock because guys got to throw the ball, I could see how it would help. But again, like, it's one of those things where it's like when a team comes out of a long break, right? Like, we don't know how the rule's going to play in.
Right.
But I could see it. I could see it helping the steal to 50s.
Right.
Me and you both had the same reaction. 50 is a big number. You're asking for a lot.
That's, you know, and that's assuming, and both those guys are because they're kind of reckless on the bases, right? They both get hurt because of that. their hand, their arm, their their leg, whatever. They end up getting dinged.
Only got one oven mitt, not two.
Right. They should wear an entire oven. Oh, here's one.
Just put the pizza bases on them, right? Like when you strap it on the stomach and the back as like the chest protector.
Right, exactly. Just make it look like a Ninja Turtle.
Like it's like a kid put together his own like fighting equipment or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Just a bunch of pillows strapped around with rope or whatever, tape.
Yeah, like he's gonna dive off the roof.
All right, I'm ready. Let's go play some street hockey.
Right.
I got my makeshift pads on.
Right, I'm ready to go.
I could fall face first, wouldn't even feel it.
Okay, without the shifts, the Dodgers will not lead the league in ERA for the 5th straight year. The Dodgers, did you see that? That pitching staff is not ever going to lead the league in ERA. I mean, Kershaw's older. What are they thinking?
It's weird because it's like, it's funny. Like the one year they had Urias destroying, right? But the rest wasn't great. And then the next year, Urias wasn't nearly as good, but Walker Buehler was taken over as the spot, right? So it's like they always have a guy, but
there's a guy.
It's a different guy every year. Yeah. The rest of the staff is kind of like in the 2 to 4 range, 2 to 5-ish.
Right. And look, as much as I love Kershaw, his arm isn't anywhere near what it was 2 years ago, let alone last.
And he's dealt with injuries. Like he's missed a lot of time over the last few seasons as well.
It's all the bad stuff too. It's the neck. It's the elbow. It's the stuff that if you're a pitcher, those are the things you don't want to happen. So, painful to talk about. Here's the last one we'll do, and then we'll do some fun predictions. Ohtani will not be traded by at the trade deadline.
No, he won't be traded at the trade deadline because I think they're gonna try it. They're gonna try and re-sign him, but I don't think he re-signs with the Angels. I really think the Mets let DeGrom go because they were looking a year ahead. And like I said, they had their GM. What's his name? Billy Epler, I think, or Yeah. He was the GM that recruited Ohtani to the Angels. Mm-hmm. So for him, this is just like, Ohtani, I'm sorry I did you dirty the last few years, but come to the Mets now. We have the money. You see, we were spending the money. We have the team, the players now. We got 100-win season last year. This is all the things I promised you years ago at the Angels we're actually going to do now on the Mets.
Okay, here's where I look at this. Okay, for Ohtani. And this is a massive if the Angels can get to the playoffs, I think that Artie Moreno will do everything short of selling the stadium to keep Ohtani in Southern California. He likes it there. He likes playing with the Angels, okay? Which is not to say he wouldn't come to the Mets or that he wouldn't, because it's an international city. All right, so that's the plus. LA, huge Asian population.
New York's a big. If he's looking for like a big city, New York's a big city too, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. They both of them.
That's what I mean. It would be a good move, parallel move.
So how many? There were like 4 or 5 Japanese players who played for the Yankees. So it's not like. New York has been a landing spot for a lot of Japanese players.
Yeah, Tanaka was like the guy over the last few years. He was the guy for the Yankees.
Yeah, it was good, and you saw a lot of those. You saw a lot of signs in Japanese all around the ballpark. I thought it was kind of funny to see a Japanese sign for Utz potato chips, but that's okay. The thing that I think the only thing that can keep him in Southern California is winning.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. Like, do you continuously want to be on a team that wins like 40, 50 games every year?
Yeah, but one other thing, and this is it can't. I don't know that I shouldn't have been surprised, but I kind of was surprised. Everybody on the planet in Philadelphia thought that Mike Trout would head to when he hit free agency would go to play for the Phillies. And instead, he signed an extension to stay in Anaheim. And he hadn't even they hadn't made the playoffs with Mike Trout on the team. So something must be down there in Anaheim that the players like that I'm not seeing.
Well, the weather, for one.
Well, the weather's great.
And I think a lot of it's too, like Trout's been so injured. Like people talk him up like the best player in the league, but it's like we haven't really seen the production in a few years now. So,
but I still think Philadelphia would have signed him.
Yeah, no, 100% I agree. But maybe he looked at it like I'm going to get more money if I stay with the Angels because the production hasn't been there as much. But right. It's tough to know what's going on behind the scenes, right? You can
the other theory on that one would be that there's a lot of guys who don't want to play in hometowns because the expectations it's almost impossible to keep up with expectations.
Oh yeah, the Yankees eat their hometown players alive.
Yeah.
My God, they're like, please come here. They beg them for like the whole offseason, and then they get here, and after 3 games, there's like no hits. They're like, oh, we're done with you. Get the hell out of here. You're the worst player. Why'd you even come back here? Not like you guys begged, not like the fan base begged me to come or anything because I'm from the city.
Or they put tons of cash in, out there going, please come back.
And then my favorite is like the fan base got so offended when the one player came out was like Yankees fans are the worst.
Right.
It's not even really Yankees fans. It's like New York fans are bad, man. But it's like that in any major city. Like Montreal rips their teams apart when the Canadians are bad. The Leafs, when they suck, especially around playoffs, Toronto loves ripping into them. So it's a major city problem.
It's funny. New York fans and New York media are brutal, but they're not brutally fair. They're just brutal.
That's what I mean, right? It's just like it's an excuse to lay into the team.
And as bad as New York is, and they're bad, Boston's worse.
Oh, I could believe that.
I mean, it's just like an everyday drone. Now, things do change a little bit when you go to Philadelphia, which is a very tough sports town to play in.
Yeah, they're stealing their own team players' cars.
Right. They will get on guys and they will ride them, all year. But if you come into that park from out of town and you start on one of their players, even though you may have heard on the morning, you heard on the morning talk shows that they're ripping them, you go to the ballpark and start ripping them, they'll jump all over you.
Yeah.
It's one thing if they rip them. They do not want outside.
It's like when you complain about a family member. It's okay if I do it, but not if you do it.
Right. You later about smack you in the head. You talk about my brother.
Right. It's like, literally I was thinking that example. It's like, just complain about your brother for 10 minutes straight. And then the friend says something, hey, don't talk about my brother like that.
Yeah.
But he's a jackass.
Right.
but you can't say it.
No.
But he is.
Stay away from me. And then you get to Los Angeles and nobody cares. It's like,
oh yeah, there's
nobody
so much
yells at anybody. Nobody.
There's just so much going on there. Hollywood, all this other crap. Like I doubt they even care about sports that much.
They do care. It's just that they don't. It's almost like it's almost like you're going to the theater. Okay, you're going out to watch a play. You're going out to watch a movie. It's you get reviews out there. You don't get fans are passionate. I mean, look, the Dodgers lead the league in attendance every year. They have the biggest ballpark in major leagues left, and so they do. But do Dodger fans care about? Sure, Dodger fans care, but it's a different vibe out there. It's a much more laid back vibe. It's a much more laid back vibe in San Francisco.
Well, I think the thing with LA is you got the weather. You got Hollywood. There's so much else going on over there that they don't get like as passionate into sports. And plus, the LA mentality is probably like they know they're a big city. We have like a major team, 2 or 3 major teams in every sport, right? Even if we have a bad team in one sport, we have a good team in another sport. Right. Or if we're going to be bad, if my team's going to be bad this year, I know they're going to be better next year because we have the location, we have the team history. And we have a guy that'll spend the money, right? Like the Dodgers, for example. So, or the Lakers too, right? Like they have all these big name teams.
Well, you got the Lakers and the Clippers in the same building.
Exactly. The old Crypto Dome.
Right, the Crypto Dome.
Man, we got to start a petition to change that name. That is way better than Crypto.com Arena.
We'll get the T-shirts made.
Welcome to the Crypto Dome.
To the Crypto Dome. You know, one thing you're talking about being celebrities, right, and being in Los Angeles. There was one really great Gordon Ramsay story, you know, and Gordon Ramsay's fun to rip on.
He goes to sports games.
Well, yeah. So
when he's not yelling at people in the kitchen.
He's not yelling at people. Yeah. So Gordon Ramsay goes with his friend to the Dodger game. He goes to the Dodger game, and they have him throw out the first pitch. So he throws out the first pitch at the Dodgers game. Everybody's cheering. You know, he goes into the stands, you know, and into the box, and they're there, you know, third inning. And the guy who's with them, right, says, you know, man, tell you what, let's leave now. We can go over. We can catch the second half of the Lakers. So they get you know, they leave Dodger Stadium. They go over to the Crypto Dome. The guy, of course, you know, that's with him has, you know, has courtside seats.
I got tickets to every game in the city tonight. What do you want to see?
Where do you want to go?
What do you want to see? We watch everything.
So they go over to the Crypto Dome, and
we can watch the third period of the Kings after too. What are you feeling?
And so during the telecast, okay, the announcers are there going, "Oh, look," and they put Gordon up on the jumbotron with because LeBron is over there talking to him, and the Dodgers are pissed because wait a minute, he was supposed to be here. He was here, you know, an hour ago. What's he doing at the Crypto Dome at the Laker game? So he got busted, you know, on that situation with that. But by the way, I don't know if have you ever seen the YouTube show Hot Ones, where they eat the wings and they do the interviews?
Oh, I haven't seen it, but it's come up on my feed a few times.
Okay.
So.
Let me just strongly suggest to any of you out there, Sean is fantastic. Sean Evans, who does it. Great guy, hilarious guy. Does a straight up interview. I mean, it's not like he does, but he's a very good interviewer. And the whole thing is predicated on you being able to eat 10 wings during the course of that time. And he eats the same 10 wings with spices. The funniest two of all time are 2 times that Gordon Ramsay are on.
Oh my God.
And you gotta if you don't watch any other ones of Sean's interviews, that's okay. Gordon Ramsay is absolutely hilarious on it because he just, you know, he goes nuts, off the rails, and it's just so funny that it's well worth the 10 minutes that the show's on to.
Actually, I did just watch one where he went into like an Italian restaurant, and the guy was giving him like all.
Oh, you're talking about Gordon Ramsay now?
Yeah. The guy was giving him like all frozen lasagna and stuff like that, right? And obviously Gordon could tell. He's like,
yeah.
He's like, what? Like, where'd you get this recipe? He's like, it's my mom's recipe. No, it's not, man. It's not.
If your mom is Chef Boyardee, then yes.
Yeah, it was so good, and like the guy was trying to. I love when they just don't listen to Gordon. So that it's like, what does this guy know about food?
Well, you'll find out because he'll tell you.
Yeah.
He's not shy about that. But yeah, it's worth checking out Hot Ones and the 2 Gordon Ramsay ones.
Yeah, I probably will.
You know, it's just because you know you'd think a guy like Gordon Ramsay would be able to take spicy food.
Well, you'd think he should have the palate.
Yeah, he the first time he went on because his kids shamed him into it. And
he started bleeding out of his eyes.
Right. And then the second time he went on, it was because they were raising money for a charity that he had.
Okay.
So the 2 times he went on, the fact that Scarlett Johansson beat him from a standpoint, it did barely hurt her at all.
Really? Some people just have a high tolerance.
Yeah.
Man, ScarJo just pounded back spicy wins.
Oh, yeah,
I
she's just knocking it down.
can't imagine that, but some people could take it, I guess.
Yeah.
I can't, but so other
Oh
people.
man, I would have been out. I tapped out in a second.
Yeah, no, I won't touch spicy stuff, but then again, I know people that'll eat jalapenos by the jar, so
right. I mean, I know that
you can handle it.
Some of them can't. I mean, Shaq barely made it.
Yeah, I don't need my insides burning.
And Pitbull stopped. He didn't. He just he tapped out on 4.
Yeah, he's got a brain. He's like, nah, I'm done. I did 3. I can't do this anymore. I know when to stop.
I remember, I forget who it was. He said, "How bad do I want to promote this movie? Because I've eaten 6 of these now, and I'm 4 away, and I can't. My mouth has suddenly left me. I can't taste anything. So yeah, so it's but it is the fact that Sean has made a fortune and a career out of this is good for him. Just sitting there interviewing people eating the wings.
Yeah.
And there are some people who obviously are vegan, so they come up with different, fake chicken wings, but the stuff's on there. So anyway, something to look at over the weekend between games. Check out Sean Evans and Hot Ones, because it's worth the time. Final. Let's get out of here because we've had some fun, but we have a lot of baseball. I'll tell you what, we'll do baseball sometime next week, but we can really focus on it.
Yeah, it's gonna be lots of spring training games now. Starts on Saturday. Games every day.
Every day. We're not gonna be betting on them, but
you know what? Maybe we'll string together like some fun $10 parlays.
Okay.
Like just a little. Maybe we'll do here's a.
Do they have first 2 innings in spring training?
First 2 innings. They have first 3 actually.
Oh, that's right.
You do first 3. So maybe we'll look at some fun stuff like that, and we'll both use our brains. We'll give you like a 6-teamer or something, and you can win $300 on a $10 bet. Right? Nothing stupid. Gamble responsibly, but that's what it's fun. It's fun to have a $10 parlay every now and then. Just follow it.
And to actually pay attention to a spring training game.
Especially if there's afternoon baseball, right? Like it fills that void before if you're not into soccer like us. But
I'm glad that you brought that up because we're moving Monday to 2 o'clock.
Perfect. Thank you for reminding me.
Yes, I wanted to remind myself. It's 2 o'clock on Monday.
Good to know.
And there will be games that start at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, perfect. So, there you go.
We'll know.
I'm excited. Actually, I love afternoon baseball. There's nothing better than just flipping the game on in the afternoon and having it on or something.
Well, and I will say this: if you ever have a chance to go to spring training, it doesn't matter if it's go to Phoenix or go to Florida. It's great because you can go there. You're never going to get any closer to the players than you do in spring training, and everybody's in a very chill mood. And so, if you're one of these people who wants to get autographs or selfies or any of that kind of stuff, you're going to find these guys. You're going to find them around town a lot too.
And not a lot of people go to the games, so you're gonna get cheap tickets, and it's like you just walk around and do whatever you want. There's nobody sitting in the seats.
You can't spend more than even if you try, you can't spend more than $10-15 on food. It's just impossible to do. So, it's fun. If you get a chance, go for it. I know.
I wish they did some spring training up here, but
that'd be a little difficult. But we'll see.
I know, in the snow.
The Blue Jays have a great facility down there in Dunedin. That's
I know. I hear good things about it. So.
It's a really cool place, and it's not far from the Phillies training camp. So you can if you watch Toronto play in the afternoon, you can go over to Clearwater and watch the Phillies play at night.
Yeah.
Or you can go across the causeway and watch the Yankees play.
Yeah, that's what I like. It's like there's a few in the area where you can just really make your pick.
Yeah, you can do that. I'm thinking.
You can even bounce around like Gordon Ramsay, right? You go watch an inning here, I go watch an inning there, I go watch an inning over there.
Yeah, if you really don't care about, because the tickets don't cost that much. You could probably go to 4 games for the cost of what it goes to 1. So
call me Gordon. I'm watching everything tonight.
You're watching, yeah. Well, you could easily go to a Yankee game in the afternoon and go watch the Lightning play. That's what you wanted to do. I wouldn't recommend going to watch a Magic play because they're boring. But and they're
I mean,
overpriced.
Trip to Florida sounds nice in general. So
yeah, you go to the beach after
exactly.
hang out on the beach and go to a ball game at night. That's not a bad idea.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go. Some travel plans. We gave you some entertainment possibilities over the weekend. We're a multifaceted group here. Yeah. I actually binged the entire Ant-Man series last week.
Oh my God, the Ant-Man.
I think Paul Rudd is hilarious.
I think he is too. I didn't realize he was the Ant-Man until I saw like I never saw the original one, but yeah,
the original one is okay.
It's hilarious.
The original one's okay. The second one is funny. I mean, that's where he really becomes. He understands what the Ant-Man does.
Oh, okay, there you
go. And so it's kind of. I mean, Paul Rudd is great under any circumstances, but when he actually gets it. And then he comes back and says, well, they're mad at him for stealing the Ant-Man suit. I'm like, I'm not giving anything away on this. And he just says, yeah, I was with Captain. They go, Captain who? It's Captain America, of course. I had to fight with them. So.
Isn't he dead?
Just dropping names on
Name drop a dead guy.
Yeah. Well, this is an early movie. Maybe he wasn't dead by that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't follow the universe anymore. It's
hard.
It's confusing. They've killed off so many guys.
It's hard to follow either the Marvel universe or the I can't remember the other one. It's Marvel and DC.
Yeah, their universe is like so bad though. Like Marvel, you can tell it's thought out and put together. DC is just like there's things that don't make sense in it, and it's like they saw Marvel doing the universe and decided to like patch one together halfway through. That's what happened there.
Well, there's a show called The Titans, which is a DC group, and a friend of mine produces it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I know the show.
And it's a very dark show.
Is it like it's with real people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be like the real person version of the cartoon of the Teen Titans. Right?
Yeah.
That's what So I definitely know what the show is. Yeah.
Okay. And there's it's a much darker look at Batman and the whole.
Yeah, it's not the kids version. It's not the cartoon kids version anymore.
It's not a kid version, just like
they're still somewhat like teenagers, but older teenagers.
Yeah, all of them with a language situation that's a much different language than you're going to see in comic books. And Randall, Randall Smith is the guy. Randall's the producer, and one of the things Randall had told me about the show is because there's a lot of fighting in the show, right? Their biggest problem in post-production is making sure that the wigs are staying on.
Oh my God.
Because think about it, you're fighting
around.
Yeah. So, it's
cut, fix the wig.
No, they don't cut it. What happens is you go to post-production and they like your hairline, they extend the hairline.
I see. Okay.
So
the magic of movie making.
Post-production.
Literally.
And then there's the ones where they say, okay, we found a building we can blow up. Okay. Do we blow it up or do we blow up a model in post-production? And the thing is, if you blow up the building that you buy and you screw up the shot,
you only get a one shot.
That's a one-shot deal. If you blow up the little buildings, the little, models, you can blow those up all day.
They tried to do that with the Gardner Expressway up here in Toronto. A movie company offered the city of Toronto a bunch of money to blow it up, and the city turned them down. And now, 10 years later, they're talking about tearing it down anyway because someone's going to die on it soon. It's just about to fall apart. So could have done it for free 10 years ago and built a new highway, but.
Well, there's a lot. I don't think a lot of people realize that there's more television and movie production in Canada than there is in Hollywood.
There's a lot in Toronto, and you can tell when you see the CN Tower in the background, like where it's filmed.
Right. But if it's supposed to be the 1800s, if you see the tower in the background, somebody messed up. Yes.
But yeah, there's a ton of shows. I know what you're talking about. There's like a ton of shows where you find out like, oh, that's filmed in like the suburbs of Toronto. Weird.
Well, all of Hallmark stuff is done in Canada.
Yeah.
And they've got these little towns outside of Toronto, and those little towns make a lot of money.
Adam Sandler was just up here shooting a movie in Elora.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody finds a nice place in Canada to do it. So, you know, all the old lifestyles.
We also have that film festival, TIFF. So,
what's that?
We have a film festival, TIFF.
Okay.
Toronto International Film Festival. So
yeah, I know. It's
celebrities do come to that too. So we have somewhat of a mini Canadian Hollywood in Toronto.
Well, I mean, that film festival is a very big one.
Yeah,
it's huge. And I know Montreal has a comedy festival. Does Toronto have one?
I don't think so, because the show, if you know the show Just for Gags on Comedy Central, that's from Montreal. It's shot in Montreal. I know, like, you can never tell what the people are saying because they dub over all the voices, but it's French. They're speaking French in the show. There's been a few times where they've messed up the editing, and you can tell. But yeah, that was something I never knew. It's I guess Montreal is more of like the Comedy Central in Canada, where Toronto's more like the film central, I guess.
Well, I know that a lot of the big names, like back in the day, Seinfeld and all the stand-up guys would always head for that festival because there's so many bookers from around the world that attend that festival that you didn't want to miss it. And Toronto's probably one of the 4 or 5 film festivals in the world that you're going to want to go.
Yeah, and they closed down Yonge Street for it too, so it's like it's a really big thing. They got to redirect traffic and everything.
Well, they got they got the red carpet stuff. They do it just like Hollywood.
I used to walk through it on my way to school.
Oh, there you go, on the red carpet. There goes,
yeah, no, literally, like, because you can still walk through the area that's like benched up. They don't let cars through, right? So it's like just this whole pyloned off area. It's nicer because I don't get hit by. I don't have to wait for streetlights. I don't have to get hit by cars.
Well, it's like you're walking to school through the Sony Theater on the way down.
Yeah.
There you go. So, all right, on your way to the Cryptodome. Where you went to school.
I literally could do some roller derbies in there.
Yeah, that'd be fun. All right, folks. We don't have any roller derby stats at the moment, but we'll get back together. Amedeus, have a great weekend. Everybody enjoy yourself. To Jim, Amedeus, have a great time. Be safe. And we'll be back 2 o'clock now. Remember, set your clocks. 2 o'clock on the Eastern time zone. And we'll have some fun. And we'll probably have Sean maybe back by then. I don't know. We'll see. But Sean, we don't know. We know that he wants to be with us. As always, he's here with us in spirit, but we don't know if we're going to see him, on Monday. But if not, we'll see him on Tuesday. All right, everybody. Have a nice weekend. Take care.